Good evening. Welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wiser, where our mission is in our name. We are so happy to have you here. Welcome. Hey, Onita, welcome back.
Hey, Lorraine, I'm glad to be here. I missed y'all so much last week.
You didn't miss us. You were in Italy. This girl was in Italy.
It's sleeping while y'all was getting all that good information.
Don't be fronting, man. But we are happy to have you back. We know that in theory you missed us.
Yes.
So we are happy to be back with you all again today. We have a fantastic topic and a wonderful guest that you all really loved the last time, and she brings the heat. So we are excited about that. But before we get into that, let's do our lowdown for the update with the updates. Onita, you have been out of the loop.
Yes.
Well, here's the deal. I finished my course. My coaching, my official coaching with Pastor Leggett has come to an end. I was very disappointed because we had a good time every time we met. And so then he's like, oh, I'm gonna give you a bonus. So we did that last Thursday because I was going to Oakwood for the Vision and Dreamers conference. I was like, I need all the information just in case I meet him.
Yes.
I need to know what to say. I need to know what to do. I need to know what not to say, what not to do. And so I didn't meet him. That's the update. I did not meet him. I know you love having me around.
Yes.
But I think that what my update is that it has been such a tremendous blessing to be coached by Pastor Leggett.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel so different, as a woman. I feel like a woman.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the things that he taught me, and it wasn't even really, it was about how I, interact with men and how I hold that standard and how I think about myself so that I make the right decisions when I'm interacting with them. Mm-hmm. And like I just changed a lot, just some of the superficial, or I would say external. They're not superficial necessarily, but just how I think about myself, how I dress, what I wear. It's like I've been a t-shirt and jeans kind of girl, and I have shifted that and wearing more dresses again and those types of things, feeling more like I was feeling very frumpy and just kind of unattractive and all of that stuff. And I've changed that because, I want him to be proud, whoever he is. I want him to be proud when he does. But I just want to feel good about myself, and I have been. So I think that, a lot of times people think about coaching or they hear about coaching, especially in our faith community. It's just kind of, ain't nobody to coach me. Like, I don't need no coaching, whatever. But you know how we do.
Right. We're very intellectual.
First of all, I believe in it, but also you don't realize what you don't know until you get with somebody who knows something different, has a different experience, and he's a man, and he's a pastor, and he's counseled, and he's done all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And his structure is so the bomb. And in fact, I asked him, I said, Pastor Leah, please get this certified so I want to be able to teach it.
Yes.
He said, yes, he was already planning to do that, but he's just like, you would be so perfect teaching this. So I'm excited about that, because then we can get the word out faster and help more women. So that is my update.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I saw your beautiful dress you had on at the conference, and I was like, yes, Rain, because he may be there. Okay.
You never know. You got to be ready. Actually, Heather bought that dress, and I was just like, I'm not really a animal print kind of girl, but when I put it down, I was like, I am now. So anyway,
Good job,
that
Heather.
is the end of our update. So we are excited to have our guest, Dr. D. Lucum, here with us today. And we're going to welcome her to the stage. Our topic is um, healing toxic mother daughter relationships. And we're going to talk about that from the perspective of, first of all, the relationship, but then how it impacts how you date, how you love, your marriage, all of those types of things. And we know D is going to come with the fire. Hi, Dr. D. How are you?
Hello, guys. I am fine. It's good to be here. You guys have been doing such good work and helping women, not just the idea of women, but how they engage with others and engage with the opposite sex, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether
Mhm.
you're dating or courting. Let's use the old fashioned word. And thank you, Susan Mayo, for welcoming me. And so I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are happy to have you here. And so we're going to dive right in because we don't want to miss a second of this. I do want to mention you all that I forgot to mention this last week. We have our Afterwise link in the comments right now. So we will have a recording after the live. If you want to join and ask Dee some questions directly that you may not want to put in the chat, then you can join with her and Onita. They're going to have a conversation afterward because there's always so much to talk about, even after we get off the broadcast. So just see that you would just click that link, not now because no one's back there now, but after we end the stream, and then we'll be back there. So if you want to do that, please join us. So the first thing I want to ask Dr. D. Lee, I don't know who that is, but maybe that's him. It was like a prophetic ass,
Speak him into existence.
Can you give us just a brief overview of the importance of the mother-daughter relationship? I mean, it may seem obvious, but I just think there are things that we're not even paying attention to.
Yeah, mother-daughter relationships. I think many of us thought in our minds when we're growing up the kind of relationship we thought we would have with our mothers. We looked at our grandmothers and we see how our grandmothers interact with our mothers, or we see how our aunties interact with their mother or friends.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things is that we're always wishing and hoping for that, because we may have been missing whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Mother-daughter relationships are important, not just for the idea of being mother and daughter, but it's in a relationship we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And from a relationship perspective, we have to think about, okay, so this is my mom. And then, you're taught not to be rude, not to roll your eyes. And so we think of the relationship as just do's and don'ts.
Mm-hmm.
And not love. I love my mom, but she just gets on my nerve. Whatever it is. Or I love my mom but she's like this. Or what we say, we have to in our minds, we're justifying
Mm-hmm.
the behaviors, or we're justifying the love. And so a lot of times we get caught up with that. And I've experienced that. I've experienced the negative part of mother-daughter relationship from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother and my relationship, to the idea of my own daughters and our relationship. It's never perfect. Television tells us that it's perfect. Oh, she's my friend, and whatever else we will say, because Hollywood makes it look. And it's not that people don't have good relationships with their mom,
Right.
but we need to understand what that means. It doesn't mean you're not going to be upset at each other sometimes. You will be upset at each other. You will disagree. But it's how you handle the disagreements, how you make plans to make sure you forgive. Because forgiveness is hard.
It is.
Yes, it
And
is.
when you're teenagers, that's a hard thing.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. So
This
You-
is
it's necessary for development. It's necessary for a relationship, not just with mom, but with dad. That's an important part of it.
yeah. We
Mother
actually
daughter is not just
last
mother
season
daughter.
talking about that.
Yeah, it
right.
impacts daddy and how she relates to daddy, how she relates to men, how she relates to her brothers,
Mm,
how she sees herself in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm.
it's so much. It's so much, but we can try to do some of it today and some of it another time.
I know, D, when you mentioned Hollywood, I was like, I see more now of my mother's my friend, but when I was growing up in some of the shows, I even remember one time Taylor came in after watching one, but they also made it seem like the mother-daughter relationship and the teen years was just constantly fighting. And I remember, slamming the door, Mom, you're ruining my life.
Mhm.
And I remember one day Taylor probably was like 5 or 6, and she saw a clip or something. And I think I told her, enough playing with the toys or whatever. And she's like, "You're ruining my life, Mom." And I'm like, "What? You would not be watching that show no more."
Exactly. Social learning.
So
Social learning.
learning.
And
Yeah.
that's what they're, yeah, that's what Hollywood is teaching.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're right.
Social
Did
learning.
you before Anita goes, can you did you always have that relationship with your daughter? Like, did you intentionally say, I'm going to have a different relationship with daughters, or did you mature into that? Did you grow into that? Did you like, I'm not doing what I want, and then change? How did that work for you?
Oh, I grew into it
Mm-hmm.
because my experiences growing up was do as I say. That was my experience. That was my experience growing up. It was certain things you don't do as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So my expectations in my head came from my experiences, and I brought that into my household of raising my daughters. And I will tell you, it can be devastating when you realize, ooh, this is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember the first time I heard from someone that my daughter spoke about me in their presence, and it wasn't a good thing.
Ooh.
And that hurt like the dickens.
Yes.
It hurt. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
you know, what did I do? I mean, I'm feeding you, I'm clothing you, I'm
Right.
taking care of you, I'm teaching you about God. How can you be this mean about me? And
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
so again, I made it about me.
Mm.
so so I had to really think about, and so I even had to come apart from even talking to my child and say, hey, I need to talk to God first, because Lord, you got to help me with this, because right now I just want to strangle her.
Yes.
So, but before I do, let me talk to you first.
That probably won't make it better.
See what I mean? It won't. I had to really be honest with myself. But the one thing that kept nagging at me was it was different from when I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be different, because you have to be respectful. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
was taught. That I was taught that
Mm-hmm.
you don't talk outside of your house. You don't, so I had to come to grips with my own past and
Mm,
how I was raised,
Yeah.
and come to grips with that before I open my mouth.
mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean the hurt was less. I just have to figure out a way. How do I address this without it coming across as I'm being mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do I address this? And I struggled. Oh, I struggled. I struggled. I had to actually say what was on my mind in a decent way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to yell and scream. In my head, I was yelling and screaming. But in my mouth, how what was coming out of my mouth had to be, I had to take my child's feelings and thoughts into consideration. I
Mm-hmm.
really had to,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
and I addressed it. And oh, I struggled with that. Oh, I can't even imagine other mothers having to struggle with how do you relate then. Can I trust? Because this trust is broken. That
Yeah.
bond that you thought
Mhm.
you had, that trust is broken. How do I trust my child now?
Wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
So it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
That
And
is, I
yes,
never,
that's
I didn't even think about it that from that perspective because I
Mm-hmm.
guess because I've never been a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I've mothered, but I've never been a mother. So
Mm-hmm.
in that daily, all of,
Right.
so yeah. Wow.
yeah. I was gonna say that trust part is deep because I've been a mom. I've been there because, like you said, taking it out the home because we were raised. You said do as I say. It was like do as I say and not as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
don't talk back.
Don't.
Even if
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to advocate for yourself, because there may
Right.
be a misunderstanding. Like, Mom, I
Mm-hmm.
really didn't break the light bulb. She did. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting spanking for it because I can't talk back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and so I could say even being right behind you in the generations, that still kind of came into
Mm-hmm.
mothering. Now there are parts of me because we kind of know a little bit more now because people are having more conversations.
Right. Right.
Even this mom today, I would tell you if I had my oldest on here, she'd be like, "You done gone soft with these ones."
Yeah, I would say that. They tell you that. The older ones tell you that. You're going soft with that one. Yeah.
You're going really soft. I mean, are you doing gentle parenting? Because if this was me, I'd be picking myself up off the floor right now. So, we learn better because, like you said, their feelings matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I had to start say, yeah, they're children, but their feelings matter.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, from me to the father to it's a thing where you're having to really acknowledge that their feelings matter. Just because you're my child does not mean your feelings don't matter.
Mhm.
And I have friends who have adult parents, and I ain't trying to knock on y'all family, but especially my West Indian friends who parents seem to still, they grown, married with their own kids, sometimes still don't give them that space that
No.
their feelings as adults matters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so, like you said, it's not even that you were just dealing with you were dealing with what was ingrained in you, what we learned
Mm-hmm.
coming into
Yeah.
motherhood and trying to navigate how to now
Mm-hmm.
one, the Bible tells us to discipline and love.
Right.
So how do I, and love is discipline, which kids, even me as a kid, I didn't want to see that.
That's
Right.
right. Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like that was love,
Mm-hmm.
but it is love because a lot of that discipline helped save my life to what that's why I'm here today.
That's right.
You know, but how do we discipline and love, still having the, garnering, earning, not earning, actually requiring respect,
Mm-hmm.
and then trying to reparent ourselves than what we got. And
Mm-hmm.
now as we're trying to now parent these children and
Mhm.
our grandkids. So I'm going to go to our next question is because we want to give people the meat and potatoes. I'm a note taker. So if somebody's out there, note taker, we're trying to give y'all some sustenance from the notes.
I try to do that.
So how, give us 3 to 5 reasons of how a relationship can break down.
Mm. There's quite a few of them, but let's start with secrecy.
Mm,
Mm. You just
Okay.
hey.
you came out the gate, right? You came out the gate, bam.
I'm sorry. Not
Yeah.
really. But anyways, when we talk about secrecy, it's not secrecy to hurt. We think, and I put it that way, because mama may have her secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Daughter don't know anything about being vulnerable and being open.
Mhm.
So mama's secrets encourages daughter to have her secrets as well.
Mhm.
Mm,
And
Mm.
mama is over there saying, why you always so in your room, secretive? Don't be telling nobody anything. Yeah, because I learned it from you.
Mhm.
yes.
You don't tell anything. You don't talk about anything. You
Mm.
don't even share the mundane things.
Wow.
You don't even, so the secrecy, and so that secrecy that starts out as a little thing becomes a big thing as that child grows, that child matures, and you want to know why she don't tell me nothing. I don't know nothing about her life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And because mom has never shared anything about her life, her past,
Awesome.
because she thinks that secrecy is protecting her,
Yeah.
her daughter.
Right.
Ooh,
because mama has never been vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and it can impact your relationship and
Yeah.
impact that young lady's life as well.
yes.
Yeah.
And so
All
you
right.
have the secrecy of stuff, because I
Mhm.
don't want to. I don't want my child to know this happened to
Yeah.
me, and I don't want my child to know this, and I don't want, and I don't, and I'm saying, I'm not saying you tell all.
Right.
All I'm saying is don't, you don't have to overshare. But one of the things I do before I share anything is the questions in my head. Why am I sharing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is it out of boastfulness? Is it out of trying to use it as a rebuke?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah,
Is
okay.
is
Or
it
is it that
manipulation?
there is something going to make a difference here? Can it make a
Mhm.
difference? And
Right.
that is for any, even when I do presentations across
Yeah.
the country, all those things.
Right.
There's certain things I don't share, and there's certain things I do share because it calls for that moment,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
No, that's good. All right.
That
Good.
is.
that's one. That's
That's
one.
one. Yes. Ooh,
Okay.
child.
So the next one is fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Say more.
So fear is so many different ways. You can be fearful of sharing your traumas.
Mm,
If I share my trauma, now, depending on where the trauma came from, grandma,
Mhm.
auntie, cousin, whoever, right?
Right.
And so sometimes we don't want to share those traumas because it will make cousin look bad, auntie look bad, grandma look bad. So
Right.
there's a fear there,
mm-hmm.
because sometimes it's not just the fear, it's that we don't know how to put it in a way that it's not blaming.
Mm,
We don't know how to say, you know what? Your grandma or your grandpa, they were not taught certain things, so they didn't know how to engage with me. We
Right.
don't say that.
mm-hmm.
Oh, your grandma faulty, your grandfather, this is what they used to do to me. And so that child now sees their grandparent, even though the grandparent may have changed,
Mm-hmm.
evolved, behavior, better behavior, that grandchild is looking at their grandparents with different eyes now.
Yeah.
So that fear, sometimes we take that fear and we either use it as a baton, or we use it to really scare
Mm-hmm.
our daughters. And so we have to be very careful. It's your fear. What are you afraid of? You have to ask yourself that.
Yes.
Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true.
Mm-hmm.
Someone put in the chat just now, the truth sets you free. But the
Yeah.
truth doesn't set you free when you tell the truth, all of it at the same time. Can the person handle it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know a young lady, she had a son, a single mom, and she had a son. It wasn't a daughter, but I have a feeling she would have done the same thing. She took that boy to every movie. He's 9, and she's taking him to movies that's 17 plus
Mm-hmm.
and all kinds of stuff. He turned around and became abusive to her.
Mm-hmm.
She was depressed all the time. He became depressed all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
then he cursed her out. Then he did all this stuff to her. And so I said to her, I said, you made him into your husband.
Mm-hmm.
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 And so now he feels I'm the man of the house. I
Mm-hmm.
can say and do anything to
Mm-hmm.
you. So
Yeah.
sometimes our fears really backfires on us.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
wanted to, I
Go
wanted to
ahead.
add to that fear and that secrecy, because these are two patterns that have been in my generations, my family,
Mhm, mhm,
for the fact that there were things that I remember even my grandmother shared with me that she didn't share with my mom,
mhm,
because she was now at the grandma state and she was sharing it because I can say this, when we talked about the fear, there's also a fear in parents of the shame
mhm,
of, if
mhm.
I tell this truth
Mm-hmm.
about me, there's a
Yeah.
shame I'm carrying, and
Mm-hmm.
not trusting that my child loves me enough as who I
Mhm,
am that I
mhm,
can share this. And I grew up in a home where the boundaries were very porous. Either they
mhm,
said everything, Like you said, sometimes I'm getting all of it, and so as a child,
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I take from that? And you
Yeah.
sometimes a parent, you think you're teaching, but I was being taught more of a fear of a thing.
Uh-huh.
And
Mhm.
what worked for me for that fear scare tactic, for some of my other siblings down the line, that didn't work for them, because once
Exactly.
they got a taste of what they told them not to do, it was like, oh, it didn't hurt me, so I'm moving on.
Right.
That's right. That's
Um,
right.
and then that
It-
secrecy, again, yes, have good boundaries and know
right.
when to tell certain things, and what if your kid's able to deal with that.
Right.
But the secrecy, unfortunately, certain same abuses happen in my family through each generation because nobody talked about it,
Exactly.
and everybody was
Exactly.
keeping it a secret rather than sharing, this is a thing that happened, and this is what came from it, and kind of things
Yeah.
to be prepared from, and to be open and talking, because we didn't have it was no open dialogue. It was all do as a
Yeah.
right, and so there was no communication back and forth there. So when things did happen, we didn't feel that there was a door open to go and ask for help.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of
Exactly.
that fell back to, again, the secrecy and the fear
Mm-hmm.
that can manifest themselves in so many ways.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times for both of those, parents can feel like, well, if I tell them this, it it almost gives them permission to go do it too.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Especially
yes,
when you're
That
talking
was my generation.
maybe
That's how
things
my generation is
yeah,
raised.
things you've done
Mhm.
wrong that that could be actually edifying and help the child to see you're not just saying don't do stuff because you don't want them to be happy or have fun.
mhm,
Like
Mm-hmm.
you've experienced things, but because you are afraid that if you say that you have, they'll look at you differently, and then they'll go do it. Like, oh well, you do it, and yeah, there are some kids who'll throw it in your face. That's just the reality because we're sinners. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but when you keep it back, you still don't stop them from doing the thing.
no,
They just do it undercover now.
Right,
right,
So
right,
right,
right, right. And absolutely, you're right about that. No, years ago, in the maybe it was 2006, 2007, we had a preacher came to Ephesus, and his name is Vanderhurst, and
yes,
he preached a sermon called "Fleas,"
ooh,
and he talked about not talking to your children about Uncle Barry who drinks all the time,
mm,
mhm,
Auntie Sue who is a kleptomaniac,
mhm,
Uncle James who's a whatever. Those are the fleas of the family.
mm.
And because we don't talk about the alcoholism or the drug abuse that goes on in the family,
mhm,
we always say, oh, that's just him or that's just
Yeah,
her. We
yeah.
yeah,
don't talk about the fleas. It jumps on the next generation.
Everybody,
yes,
And
everybody's
so,
scratching.
yes, everybody's scratching. And we want to know because you didn't tell that young man or young woman, the young ladies, hey, promiscuity runs in our family.
Mm,
yes,
yeah,
Because we don't say, so watch yourself. Because we don't say these things, they go out, oh, my body feels good. I'm discovering this body of mine as a teenager.
mhm,
And so, hey, ooh, that feels good. So, no, you tell them you're
mm,
going to have hormones running up and down through you.
yeah,
mhm,
It doesn't mean you respond or react to each hormone that's waving his head at you, going, hi, so you don't do that.
yeah,
But we don't talk about those things.
yeah,
And so my third one was vulnerability,
yes,
mm,
being vulnerable with your daughters. Um, the first time I was actually vulnerable with my youngest daughter was I'm 64, so it's 4 years ago. I had to count in my head. It
4 years ago.
yeah,
Wow.
4 years ago. Yes. Um, easy. It was something. Our children always think that my responsibility as a parent is, in their eyes, to pray for them, boy trouble in some cases, or whatever. That was
yeah,
they relegated me to that.
Yeah.
They relegated daddy or I was health as well. So something going on with their friends.
Yes.
Yeah, I was health,
Mhm.
prayer, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Daddy was money and nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah. So the
If I need
nonsense
my,
that they
if
want
I
to
need my
talk with him
car
about.
fixed, if I
Right.
need my car fixed.
Right.
Yes.
Stuff he wouldn't even see the other side of it. He'll see whatever they're saying and he go with it.
Yes.
Me, I'm looking at the other side and around and all over, right? And so she was talking to me about something. I don't remember what it was. I remember where I was. I was laying in the couch and something she said, and I said, I'm telling you, that was the day. And I said to her, I said, what? I said, you want to know something? All the times you're in college and you want this and you want that. It's the money from me, ain't from daddy. It's daddy come and ask me for money to get it to you. I said, get that in your head. I said, as a matter of, and I just went off.
Mm.
I just went off. I said, as a matter of fact, y'all talking about stuff. Y'all love to talk about this and talk about that. What y'all just do for me? Any one of you. You don't buy me nothing. You don't do nothing for me. Oh, I went off. I went
You
off.
did. You did go off.
I did. It was like it was in there and I needed to get it
Yes.
out.
Yes.
But at the same time, the tears were flowing
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
because it became cathartic. And at this point, I was like, in my head, I'm going, did I hold all this stuff inside of me?
Yeah.
And these children, and I made daddy look so good.
Mm.
I lift daddy up so much
Speak on it.
that they have not seen me. I was invisible to my daughters.
Yeah.
Wow.
I raised daddy up. You always speak good of your father. You always do this of the husband. And so I raised him up in such a way that daddy could do no wrong.
Mm.
And so everything that's wrong, it's mommy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was like, and that's the time. And she said, I did not know that. I did, as I started spilling everything, she said, I didn't know that. I didn't know that's how you feel. I didn't. And I said, you know what? I said, because in my mind, y'all should be happy. However, that happiness is making everything look like your father is the perfect king.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's another thing, to teach our girls not to always, talk about behind every good man there's a good woman or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for saying that, Susan. Yeah, we think so. And so we're over there going, let's push him forward. And
Mm-hmm.
no, I want you to understand, my daughter, that I'm going to be right there with him. I'm going to support him and understand, but I have my own identity as well.
Yes.
You should
Yes.
have your own identity as well.
Yes.
Right.
There's no man should take over the whole of you. I am
Mhm.
this, and that's what it is.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's how come I got a 60th birthday party.
You hear
Sometimes
me?
I gotta
you go off some folks to get you a party. Where my party at?
Yeah, but just to be vulnerable and
Yeah.
let them understand what's going on. And from then on, I realized I had just held their father up on a pedestal without acknowledging his flaws. They all know my flaws.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you how it is, and you're gonna pray about it, and we're gonna see God's face, and we're gonna get going. But you gonna, but daddy is gonna, okay, and being all hunky dory nice with them, and I'm the bad guy because I'm gonna tell you like it is, right?
Mhm.
And so, but being so vulnerable so that they understand that you have feelings,
Yeah.
you have thoughts, you're
Yeah.
not invisible as a mom, because
Yes.
sometimes we are nurturers in such a way that we're just in the background.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what we're teaching, we're not realizing what we're teaching our kids. And I'm trying not to get choked up about this because I just had to have this conversation with one of my daughters just this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
What we're teaching them, and that is not, it's first, it's a great thing to esteem our fathers, especially on the side of it when the world is not doing it enough,
Right,
especially
right.
when you have a good Christian man in the house.
Mhm.
So please don't hear us wrong when she's saying
Right,
it. But
right.
what we're saying is we're having to teach our daughters and we're having to show them that I am worthy too.
Too, exactly.
That I
Exactly.
matter, that I am important enough to prioritize myself as
Exactly.
well.
Mhm.
And so in doing that, because we weren't taught that, we weren't given those
Nope.
tools.
Nope.
The mother had to carry all the bags, lift the children, feed them, clothe them, do this, be the psychiatrist, the principal, the disciplinarian, the cook.
Mm-hmm.
All of it was ingrained in us, indoctrinated that's you
Yes.
did all of that, but then you also better be a good wife, and oh
Mm-hmm.
gosh, and if you also have to work a full-time job
Uh-huh.
on top of all those things. So then
Yep.
what happened is, as a woman, because yes, mom is a great title that I wear, but as a
Right.
woman, we end up putting our self-care and things that matter to us on the back burner. So then
Mm-hmm.
therefore we're not able to be as vulnerable, because either
No.
sometimes you may feel like you're gonna blow up,
Yep.
and or you're not, you're gonna be misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And being vulnerable, we're teaching our children, our daughters, that they matter, that there's a safe space here. Let's hold space for each other
Mm-hmm.
to be able to say that, this thing happened, and I felt this way, or it hurt me
Mhm.
when this happened. Also apologizing in that moment, like,
Yes.
I know you, I
Yes.
love you. You were in the office with me, my husband, we got married. So I know it
Mm-hmm.
took a lot for you to even to release all of that. But in the same time, I know you also felt like, well, dang, I didn't want to. I'm sorry, y'all. Thank you for the party. you know, but being able to even say too, as a mom, to your child, I'm sorry. That
Yes.
sometimes you have moments where you snap too, and you're like, I maybe could
Yep.
have handled that better.
Yeah.
So I apologize for being
Yeah.
vulnerable,
You
even in that.
apologize. Yeah. You keep going.
Being vulnerable even in that, because we're teaching them and we're giving them the tools that they need, and to
Mm-hmm.
see vulnerability really as a strength and not a weakness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not a negative. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are some of the things that I think about. And it's so important for us to understand. For the single women, God is going to put someone in your life whenever that is. And that's his choice when he decides. And when you are open to receive, and when you have really let him do it, he will, he will do it. The thing of it is, embrace the relationship in a way that says, I care, but I also want you to see me as well.
Yes.
You see the word intimacy, into me see.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're teaching our daughters, so Ashante, I'm looking at Ashante, our daughter, and Ashante says, she says, I always tell the guys who try to date me, well, you better come good. I said, yeah, it's one thing to say that. I said, don't. She said, well, I always measure them against daddy. I said, back up. Your father is not a saint. He's a God-fearing man. He's a provider. He's a protector. Absolutely all those things. I said, but don't measure anybody up against him all the time, because there are some things that they may have that he does not have.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be careful. And I said, so go slow.
I think well, I'll make one point, and I'm going to segue, because I think that's a great place to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the question: how does those unhealed relationships between mother and daughter impact how you date and your relationships? But before you answer that, I'm going to say that as a daughter, looking at my mother is a great mother, and she's always been, as you say, strong and all of those things. And it was challenging. Why I'm saying that what you're saying is really good, to be vulnerable and early, because the first time I saw my mother vulnerable was when her mother passed away. And her mother, my parents are from Trinidad and Tobago, so her mother's in Trinidad. She's not there around. And so her mother passes away. And I came out into the living room and I saw her crying. And I had never seen my mother like that. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, unsure what to do. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know how to handle that, because it was so I think even the point of like not just being vulnerable for yourself because you're a woman, but teaching your children how to navigate anyone's vulnerability.
Yes.
Well, we all have different personalities, but if you kind of start off understanding compassion and how and empathy and all of these things, then it helps you even and to be able to practice with a safe person like your well, if your mother's safe. We know every mother isn't safe,
Not safe, right, right.
but because we're talking about toxic mother-daughter
Yeah.
relationships, we know that. But you know, to be able to practice that, vice versa, and then teach her, you get to be vulnerable too in your relationship. You get to take care of yourself, and even, you know, like you're saying, Ashante, measuring the guys against her dad when there's things she doesn't know about her dad, and she doesn't have a complete picture,
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
knowing what she actually needs in a husband for herself.
That's right.
Because the thing is, she's not exactly like you. So what
Exactly.
you need in a
Yep.
husband, right, is gonna be different than what she needs in a husband.
Exactly.
So, so I'm gonna let that be and let you segue into that question that I asked you.
I'm sorry, you were talking. Remind me, because I got caught up in what you were saying.
Oh, okay. Well, praise the Lord for that. I brought some value to the program.
Yes, you did.
I was asking, how does those unhealed relationships
Oh.
with your mother impact how you make decisions about dating and relationships, and
Mhm.
how you do marriage?
Well, first of all, you have to acknowledge that you have some healing to be done. So,
Yes.
if you don't even acknowledge that, if you think everything is good, but you're going to your friends and complaining about your mom or your siblings and complaining all the time, and you're just tolerating your mother,
Mm.
Mm. Mm.
you're just tolerating your mother because of that word, mother.
Mm.
And in Christian households, that happen as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so it's not only about people out there, it's also in Christian households. They just tolerate each other.
Mm.
And so to heal, you have to acknowledge there's something to be healed, first of all, that I'm hurt.
Yeah.
Be willing to have a conversation about that hurt. And I tell people all the time, journal. Sometimes that gets some of that, empty yourself out of the little things that's bothering you. Journal, write it out, and figure out how do I want to approach this conversation. And approaching that conversation is not when you're upset. Like I was upset, I told you about my sister, but that's not the way. But I think I had boiled over and everything is just and then I had to really pull myself and say, hey, I'm sorry about that. It doesn't mean I'm sorry that I told you what I told you.
right.
I'm sorry about what I said and in how I said it, I should say.
Yeah.
That's not how it should have been said. And so sometimes we think that we don't have to be, how should I put it? Vulnerable. We don't have to be, we don't have to tell the hurt. We don't have to share the things. But we have to make sure that the hurt is there. Talk to yourself about it. Talk to someone that you trust,
Yeah.
that you trust, that you trust.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but talk so much. But also, don't forget that this is still a Christian broadcast. Take the time to find yourself in God's word as well,
Yeah.
so that when you do speak to that hurt, when you speak to that toxic relationship, because there are a lot of toxic relationships with mothers and daughters. If the mother say, oh, I like that dress. Do you really like that dress? I think you're just saying that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's that stuff that you haven't gotten rid of from before. It has nothing to do with the dress.
Yeah.
It has to do with what you didn't get rid of. You didn't clean up. You didn't think about it. And so we have to really acknowledge, first of all, that there's hurt. And then figure out, how do I want to address that hurt? Find somebody you trust to help you navigate that if you can't navigate it yourself. And with the extreme, you may want to make sure that someone that you may have to go to therapy together.
Yeah.
If mom or if daughter, if it's reverse and it's daughter,
Right.
if they're willing. So there are different steps that you have to take. And sometimes we want to run straight to the therapy and we haven't even acknowledged that there's something going on
Mm-hmm.
because we're afraid the relationship may be so fragile.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And I think that I think that's a very important point, because when you go to therapy, it helps to know what you want out of that.
Yeah.
You can't just go and be like, fix us. It's like, what
No.
is it that you want? Do you want to actually have a relationship that keeps go that's healthy? Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to say, hey, I just want to tell you that these things hurt me and bother me and I want to be done with you?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something like, what is it that you want? And if you
Yeah.
don't even acknowledge what you're feeling, how
Mm-hmm.
it made you feel, and when it happened, what all of these things, then you kind of go into a therapist and expect them to just do some magic dust on you and
And
fix
we
it.
don't fix anybody.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You don't fix anybody.
We
So
don't
yeah,
fix anybody. It doesn't work that way in therapy.
I
And
definitely think that's important.
yeah, you
Yes.
talked about how does that impact a young lady dating
Yeah.
or an older young lady, y'all, everybody under my age is young. So, but anyway,
But some old people haven't dealt with their stuff. So you could
they
be
haven't
60,
dealt with their
70
stuff
trying to
too.
date. And the
Yeah.
reason that you ain't found someone is because you wicked and you're bitter and you're nasty
Now
because of
there
all
you
this
go.
stuff.
There you go. And that's something that happens a lot of times. Is
Yes.
that I haven't dealt with what occurred in my life. I haven't dealt with even the last person that I broke up with. I haven't
Mhm.
dealt with how he treated me. I haven't
Yes.
acknowledged that I have pain. I haven't done any of that. So I have my mother's stuff. I have the last boyfriend stuff. I have the church telling me stuff. I have my crazy girlfriends telling me all this stuff. Of course, it's going to impact how you date.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to impact how you look at men. It's going to impact how you look at yourself. How
Yeah.
do you see yourself? Do you think that you are worthy? Do you see yourself as gold tried in the fire? Or do you see yourself as being in the palm of God's hands? Do you see yourself as a child of the king, as that princess? Do you see yourself that way, or do you see yourself?
Right. Hallelujah. She preaching now.
Do you see yourself in such a positive way
Mhm.
that you have to look at yourself, and when you think about dating and looking at, I mean, yeah, your
Mhm.
eyes gonna see the candy first,
Mm.
or you might smell the candy that passed by,
Uh-huh.
and but all that could fade away. Because
Mm-hmm.
now I'm getting old, I can see it. Thank God the man loves me.
Yes. Yes.
And he loves me for me, because
Yeah.
the eye candy is not as the eye candy used to be.
Right.
So you have to be very careful with your past impacting your present and your future.
Yes.
It's okay to talk to God, but sometimes you need God and the therapist. All
Mhm.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Lorraine, you want me to go to our next one? Or
Yeah.
you want?
Yeah. We're a little after 7, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're good. Wait, this is so good. I can't believe how fast time is going. Um, let's just talk about some ways mothers are impacted by the loss or the breakdown of the mother-daughter relationship.
So a
Mm.
lot of times we talk about it from, and I just want to give a little context. A lot of
Yeah.
times we talk about it from the daughter's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and you started to talk about this when you steered your story. So you actually have addressed a little bit of this, but like even mothers who are at fault, let's say
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
how does that loss of that daughter relationship still impact them?
Loss is grief.
Mm.
Okay. In
Yes.
relationship, that mom is going to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm.
mom is going to grieve, whether it's a daughter or whether it's a son.
Right.
The mom is going to grieve because there's this, if I put that caveat, if a mother, and we define mother sometimes because you birth a child,
Yeah.
but if a woman birth a child, let's put it that way, and she cares enough about that child, it will grieve her when there's no relationship.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And that grief comes out in so many, it can present itself in different ways.
Oof.
It may present itself in being irrational about things. It may present itself as being withdrawn.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
may present itself as being over intrusive in the life of that
Mm.
child, even though the child
Yes.
is not there. There's no relationship.
Yeah.
I'm always checking Facebook, or I'm checking this, or because we don't have a
Yeah.
personal
You're
relationship.
left out and you just
Yeah.
trying to
So
get
I want to check.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you're always looking for the connection.
Mm-hmm.
And God created us for community.
Yes.
And that community starts with our immediate family. And
Mm-hmm.
when that is broken, we desire to have that community again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that community with our daughters is so important, because I'm going to see in her stuff that's in me that
Ooh.
I try to get rid of when I was a teenager. And I'm like seeing it now, and it's crazy. When
Mm-hmm.
you see stuff, you're like, oh, Lord Jesus. And you see stuff. And so when the relationship, you're not there anymore to help guide and navigate, because you have no relationship.
Yeah.
And that is grief, because you're thinking, I don't want her to repeat the things that I did, but we have no relationship for me to help her navigate it.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow.
I don't have a relationship, so I can't help her navigate it. I'm grieving that loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And mama is going to grieve that loss, whether she acknowledges it or looks like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that attitude of don't care or is not
Yeah.
true. It's not
Yeah.
true.
And people are so quick nowadays. We have a society that promotes detachment,
Mm-hmm,
cutting
mm-hmm.
off, and I'm just gonna do me. I'm protecting my peace.
Yeah.
So I would like to encourage or try to caution. Listen, I can write. I can write. I'm actually am writing a book now, but I'm not negating the fact that there is hurt there with your mother.
Right.
What we're saying is recognize too that she is a human, a woman who has feelings too.
Mm-hmm.
Some who even are at the core every time there's even a little disagreement. There's people who threaten to cut off just because there's a disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
We're never going to agree with somebody 100% of the time.
No.
And if
No.
you're in a relationship, dating, or marriage, and you say we never argue, boo boo, both of you are big avoiders, because there's no way.
Yes, Lord.
I
And
don't
it's
like
gonna come
me
up.
some days, okay? I can't deal with me some days. So anyway, you're in a relationship with anybody and everything is always so. But if you feel like your go-to is, oh, I'm just gonna cut her off, I ain't got time for her, because I ain't gonna lie, sometimes when my sister and I talk, we go, girl, you talk to your mother today, like
Yep. 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 Yep.
girl, get your mama. But the reality is, I think it was I love that you share that fact that is grieving. Loss is grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes that grief even shows up not even just because you are cutting the relationship, but there's a transition in the relationship when the daughter or son now marries.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand why mother having a problem. It ain't even that the person you're dating or marrying is not a good person. There's a grieving process in there
Yes, it
for
is.
that mother while you're transitioning through that too. That could be part of it. So I'm glad you shared that so that people can empathize with the mother too and what her side of it is.
And if you've never been vulnerable with your child, the first time you do it is not going to be just like, I really am grieving the loss of this relationship. Like that gets kind of deep.
Yeah.
That's not going to be your first shot at typically that's not going to be your first shot at vulnerability.
No.
Or
No.
like, I'm really happy that you found the love of your life, but you're not my little girl anymore and I'm grieving that. Like that's not going to be your first shot at vulnerability typically. And so if you've been having issues the whole time, then to be able to or even to recognize it for yourself.
Right.
Because I think, someone asked me and I really have to go. And so might have to just leave and let y'all keep, because we got another final question that we really have to get to.
Yeah.
But someone asked me last week, they said, how do you feel about never having children? And this kind of fits this topic. And I said, because she's younger than me, but she's like in her late 40s, so she's not going to have children either. She's not married either. And I said, and I didn't have this language at the time that this happened, but when she asked me, I did have the language, and I said I had to grieve that. Because even though when I was a teenager, I wasn't like the one who was always had the babies and all that. I wasn't all that. Like I was in the sports and basketball and stuff when I was, but then there came a point when I expected, assumed, believed, and wanted. I would get married by 25. We would have a child by 27. We would, we'd have the whole thing, and like none of that happened. So, but the first thing I had to agree, because I can still get married today. Well, probably not today because it's like 7:10. I ain't met him yet. But like, but I could still get married, but I'm not still going to have any children. So when the time came, when I was like, I knew that door was closed. And I know technology and people, I won't try to have no baby after 40 for real. Like really 35. And I had to really like sit with that thing.
Yes.
Because it was very painful. And it's not something that I talk about a lot.
Right.
But, I had a Marison and Daya, they were in my life at that time. But I mean, obviously they're not mine. And they can stay at their house. That's fine. But I'm just saying, I love them little tuggers.
Yes.
Of course, they're grown now. But I had to grieve the fact that was never going to happen. Like I was going to live my whole life and never know, like all my friends have had children, what it feels like to actually give birth, to have a child living inside and to feel that first kick, to feel, all of those things that my friends can talk about and share. I can't share that. And I never will be able to. And that was rough. And so when we think about grief, we think about just someone dying, but it's just like you can grieve someone never living.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So
absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I didn't come to understand that terminology as it relates to that because I was watching a podcast and they were talking about grief and the woman was, and I was just like, oh yeah. Because we think about like if someone has a miscarriage, then it's obvious that they will have grief. But if you never even get pregnant and that's what you desired, you have to grieve what never happened.
Yes. And a lot of our people go through losing a husband or a wife, and we're thinking it's death, but a divorce. Have you noticed some people who retire and die a month later or 2 months later? And those are all losses and grief of what I used to do, and everything about what I was part of is now gone.
Yeah.
And so some people's body and their mind can't handle it.
Yeah.
And why do people fuss when children say, well, you're leaving me, you're taking me away from my friend, and we're moving. They're grieving as well.
Yeah.
But we don't acknowledge children's griefs in that way. You'll make new friends when you get to the new school.
Yes. Like, I gotta say this. But I'm like, the final question is, can you give us 3 to 5 ways that we can start healing? But let me say this, and then I apologize, you all. I do have to jump off because I actually have to be a part of the board meeting this time. But they just started, so I got a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But I think that in this, like, people don't understand when they say stuff like, oh, well, you're lucky that you're not married because I got all these issues, or you lucky that you never had a child because all that stuff I had to deal with. You lucky because of this and you lucky because of that. And it's just like, okay, you're saying that in the moment, but imagine your life without that partner. Imagine your life without that child. Because children are challenging and there's a whole lot of stuff that comes with that. And so is marriage, but God created it to be beautiful. And for those of us who do it right, it is beautiful. And then there are challenges. It's not like it's terrible. And then there's like a little bit of beauty.
Right.
Do it right. Now, obviously it can happen that way too. And so it's like, so I'm lucky that I don't have someone to talk to when I get home. I'm lucky that I don't have someone to eat dinner with. I'm
Right,
lucky that I
right,
get to go to
right,
the movies by myself because I'm
right,
lucky,
right.
we don't go to the movies, but I'm lucky that I'm
I know
lucky.
what you're saying. Somebody
I'm
on here might
lucky
do.
that I don't know what it feels like to look at the ultrasound and have the little pic. I'm lucky because of that.
Right.
Mhm.
So people try to make you almost forget the loss that you have or the things that
Mhm.
you, but it's like you don't have to say anything. Just listen. And that's
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
All
That's
right. I'm gonna let you all keep talking to Onita and D. Dr. D, thank you so much. I really appreciate. I'm gonna
Thank
stay.
you for the invitation, y'all.
You
yes.
y'all can keep talking as long as you want now. Thank you, audience. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, sis.
Yeah. But the question was ways to heal. Is that what I heard what she said?
Yes, the question is, it was 3 to 5 steps we can take to heal the relationship.
Okay. Well, first of all, define your relationship. I won't even say define love. I would say
Mhm.
define your relationship. Is it a toxic relationship? Is it a misunderstood relationship?
Mhm.
Um, is it a relationship of give and take? Or is it a relationship of take only or
Mm.
give only? So that's all that first part. You got to
Yes.
define that. Once you define that and you know what type of relationship you have,
Mhm.
then you want to acknowledge if there's been any hurt in that relationship that needs healing. Acknowledge if there's any hurt that you need, and it may not even be so much hurt, maybe some misunderstood situation that you need to clear up.
Mhm.
You know, some people hold on to things too long and can't even remember what it was that they were holding on to this particular thing and realize, oh, that's not what it was something else.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and so acknowledge that. Once you acknowledge that, be willing to have a conversation.
Okay.
Be willing to have a conversation. Um, and also, once you're willing to have that conversation, don't make assumptions.
That's a good one.
Don't make assumptions because the person that may be responding to you based on something that's going on with them or they responded to you in the past. So, in order to heal, don't come in with assumptions. Be open minded when you decide to have a conversation. You know, one of the things that is taught is that we have to listen more and speak less
Yes.
and ask for clarification. And clarification doesn't mean, why are you saying that? What you trying to say? Not with a tone. Simple. I heard you say that you didn't like it when I told you to lock the door every night you came in and you got upset about that. Is that what I'm hearing you say? You're asking for clarification because you may have misunderstood.
Yeah.
And so you ask for clarification, get the clarification, and
Mhm.
they say, okay, I understand that I should have locked the door, you know, and shouldn't have to tell me because I've been leaving it unlocked a couple of days and that's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's that give and take in that relationship of acknowledging your part or your role in whatever went wrong.
Mhm.
So define the type of relationship you have, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, toxic, tolerant, whatever that type of relationship is. And once you acknowledge it and define that, then acknowledge if there's been any hurt or anything that you need to talk about. Then make a time to talk and listen more than ask for clarification as well.
I
But
think
don't make
that's
assumptions. Don't make assumptions.
yes. And I think these are great tips to use in every relationship, not
Mhm.
just the mother-daughter one, but to really use these in all relationships. But specific today, being that our topic is mother-daughter, I think, just even from the top, defining the type of relationship that you want,
Mhm. Mhm.
and understanding. And this is something I had to come to grips with, even with my mother relationship, um, in past years, because of different things that happened, I had to grow up early, and losing my dad and losing my grandmother, who was still both mothering, honestly, my mom and me at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So mother had me very young, and then you're grown and you've been doing life for so many years. I noticed, probably maybe since I moved back more, but more within the past 4 or 5 years, my mother wanted to be more of a given so much more advice now, where
Mm.
we weren't used to that.
Right, right.
And so then I'm recognizing that, oh man, that's one, I think because she missed out on it,
Mm-hmm.
from what all the hurt things the trauma she was suffering with.
Mm-hmm.
So she's trying to do it more now. But where me and my sisters are like, we grown, and not me as much. Not that she don't need to tell me much, but she recognizes, okay, you kind of doing what you're supposed to do. So, but with some of the others, there was so much resistance.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we don't need that. And I think, well, I don't think, I know there was no clear conversation of,
Right.
this is one, not even that we don't need it, because sometimes, I mean, it's great and sound advice, um, a lot of times. And so the tone, I think the way it's given, but also
Right.
the actual conversation, defining now that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we can rely on you this way now.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
was gaps of not having any of that. And I think for her, I mean, I know she flat out felt hurt by it when it was
Mm-hmm.
received,
Mm-hmm.
or felt like they didn't listen, but it was hard because it was like there was this huge gap of not having that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you want that. Well, I was able to come to the groups and just say, hey, for me right now, for my relationship, I need you to be a great grandmother.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I had the best grandmother who was there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know financial, it's not even about the financials.
Right.
This is what I need for you, for my mother-daughter relationship. I need
Right.
you to make the call on the birthday. They say happy birthday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There don't have to be any money. I need the check-ins when somebody, if I text, hey, we're sick, or somebody's sick, I need to call. Those are some clear things that I was able to define. But even that didn't come on day one, as Lorraine, you guys spoke about. That was me actually making a decision a few years ago that I want to be healed of something.
Yes. Yes.
So in
Yes.
my journey, on my own healing journey, then I got the words to be able to say, and also establish boundaries and say, oh, this is what I actually need. I'm actually recognizing, I spent time with me to go, what do I want? How do I need love to be shown to me in this way
Exactly.
with this
Exactly.
relationship? And so for me, it was, hey, I don't necessarily I don't need the money, but I need the calls to check in. I need the birthday calls to my kids.
That's right.
And I need you to show up when you can. And hey, now what do you, and then, hey, not just me, because kids can be, even grown kids, very about give me, mommy.
Yeah, remember I talk about that. What kind of relationship is it? Is
Yeah.
it give me, or take.
Take.
Yeah.
And then I had to also be like, okay, now what is it that you need from me in order for
Right.
you to feel that you're getting love the way you need to on my side of it? How can I show up for you now, in this space? And definitely was not what I was taught, not what I saw. But and again, on this journey of healing and and prayer, God was able to say, here are the words you need to use to get to that place. So I think it's critical that you define a relationship, and like you said, even just decide what you want, because I can want if more. I can want a thing, and I'm on a healing journey, but she may not be there.
That's right.
You
And
know?
she may not be there, and you have to accept
Yeah.
that she's not there, and that goes to mother or daughter.
Yes.
Grown adult daughters have to remember that their mom may not ever. I had a girlfriend. She was waiting for her mom to say "I love you" for years. Mom died and never said it to her, and it took her years to come to grips with that.
Yeah. You may not ever get it. You may not get that part of what you needed. And again, it goes back to the other previous point you made. That may be something you have to grieve.
Yes.
You may have to grieve that, and grieving in a space where there's closure, that's resolved, but understanding too now on this side of it, you as the mother.
Yeah.
Remembering now, because my husband and I have these conversations, no matter how much better we feel of a life we give into our kids, I say, you do know they're going to have stuff. When they get older, that,
Yeah.
that we didn't
No
do.
matter how you do it, you try really hard to do it the way, all the books told you, the Bible
Yes,
told you, that this, and you're doing all this stuff, and then they're going to have stuff because this world is filled with sin.
yes,
And they're going to see things and hear things and things they like it this way or whatever. The thing of it is, do as much as you can do. Let the Lord do the rest, and
yes,
pray for our daughters. We must
yes,
pray for our daughters, and daughters must pray for their mothers.
yes,
And it for some relationship it's going to take a long time to get there,
yeah, yeah,
but for others that's part of their life.
yeah,
So don't feel bad if you can't pray for your mom right now, but you can take the time to ask God to work on your heart,
yeah,
on your mind,
yeah,
so that you can get to a place like that.
yeah. Because I will tell you this: the more I did intercede on her behalf, but also pray God change me.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
We have to. A lot of times, we have to be the change that we want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
so, in that, God, do it in me first. Some of those things, it's dealing with me. We know, and for some people who may be watching, Lorraine wrote this awesome book, "Pray It Forward."
Mm-hmm.
Woman who takes everything to prayer on her knees, and we were interceding on our beloved. It was for a male in particular, but who, if it could be your husband, your son, your brother,
That's
whoever.
right.
And all of us women, I think, going through that journey and praying
Mm-hmm.
for that person, saw
Mm-hmm.
God gutting us out, like refining us and
Yes.
doing a change in
That's
us,
right.
to where there was things in me that I'm like, I'm praying about him for, and I'm like, oh, God,
No, it's to clean you up,
it's a clean me
clean
up.
you up. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so I remember actually Dr. John Trusty came and did a marriage seminar years ago at the church.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about conflict or something and trying reconciliation. But in particular, he said to ask God to help, just pray, God, help me see that person the way you see them.
See, exactly, through a God's eyes. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And that for me shifted my perspective and my whole totality view on my mother. I went from seeing her as just a young mom who had me and who I felt like didn't do everything she should have done for me and our
Mm-hmm.
sisters
Mm-hmm.
and all these things. And yes, she had these years of this situation and that, and she could have done better. To God, I mean, I woke up in tears wailing
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to see, yeah, this was a young mother. No
Mm-hmm.
matter if she
Mm-hmm.
chose it, this was traumatic for her too.
That's right. That's
And
right.
you know what I mean? And growing up in a home, like I don't never remember. I love my grandmother dearly, God rest her soul. I don't know if my grandmother ever said I love you to me. I knew
Mm-hmm.
it.
Right.
She
Her
was never,
attitudes or actions.
I knew it. And I'm thinking, wow, she was that way for me, for grandmother. I'm now, once God, I began to pray that perspective where I was able to hear from my mom, oh, there's not words she didn't hear. Or the extra hugs I got, she didn't get. The extra attention I got, she didn't get. So, you know what I mean? I was able,
Yeah, because she had that baby, and that
right.
was not the plan. So exactly, I
You know
understand.
what I mean? So I got to
Mhm.
guys like, look at not just at your mom, who my mom was brilliant, straight A student, played the violin, ran track. Her life now had to
Mhm.
come to a complete 180.
Mhm.
So look at the trauma of that, growing up in a society where
Yes.
they were the church family. My grandmother's dad was a pastor. The ridicule, the rejection,
Exactly.
the ostracizing that didn't even just come by the neighbors, but the whole family, my grandmother's whole
Yes.
family.
Yes. In those days, absolutely.
Oh, you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? What all she came up against to steal, and the fact that they were in church, but the fact that many of her peers would have just had an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
would have to not have to deal with that ostracizing and what the shame that came upon my mom and
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them did, but she chose. So I said, one, praise the Lord that she didn't choose the easy way out. But
Yeah.
God, I'm
Yeah.
here, and that God, you showed and revealed to me. My mama is a woman like me who was
Mhm.
just learning and seeking love,
Yeah.
and sometimes in all the wrong places because of
Right.
the void she had of the father not being there,
Right.
the not getting love the way she should have gotten it. And so that
Mm-hmm.
definitely helped change my perspective and help us be able to have some better conversations, some deeper conversations, more vulnerable. And when I was able just to sit and, like you said, the early on, listen, when I was
Mm-hmm.
able to just listen and be and hold space for her, I was able to hear her heart more. And she got to see that this was a safe place of no shame, that I forgave her, that there was no
Mm-hmm.
judgment here. and that I just wanted to let her be heard so
Yeah.
that she can get the healing that she needs as well
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from that. So this has been so good. We mentioned earlier, of course, Dee, we got to have you back, and just we got to have you back. And just to let some of y'all know too, we're actually going to have Dee's other half on talking about finances later to help you get your money right. I think he's coming on June 11th. I'm not sure. We'll have that out there. But we're so grateful that you came today. We love our mothers. We just had Mother's Day, so we're celebrating moms. If your mom has already, unfortunately, you don't have a relationship with your mother, there are people in your life. I praise God. People, even Dee, at different points of my life, stood in the gap for me as a mom. There are women out there,
Yes.
and there was times I praise God that there was people mothering me, and I didn't even know I was being mothered.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
we celebrate the women, the mothers who haven't birthed a child, but they had to stand in the gap for other people.
Yes, that's right.
And we just pray that you will do the work. If you want to have that better relationship, that you will use some of the tools that you heard here tonight, that you will pray and ask God to where you should start with that,
Yes.
so that you can be on your journey to healing and getting a better relationship. As you know, we like to end with a verse. We said Proverbs 4:5. It just says, get wisdom, get insight.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what this podcast is all about, is to give you additional tools you can use in your life that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. We did put the After Wise link in the chat. So we're going to get off of this live. We're going to come back into another stream.
Right.
If you've been watching, you want to get on here and ask Dr. D some questions or share something that stood out to you tonight, we want to give you that opportunity. So we're going to sign off here, but we have the link in the chat on YouTube. So come on, click in there, come and ask some questions. But we hope tonight, if we don't hear from you, that you learn some things tonight that'll help you live, love, and marry wiser. Good night, everybody.